The cargo bay of Crossroads Haven Station stank of chemicals and disappointment. Hana stood with her arms crossed, her purple scales reflecting the harsh overhead lights. Around her, 3 other Veltari merchants whispered and pointed at the massive creature lying in the corner. Bomb. Once a magnificent starworm, now looked like a broken toy someone had thrown away. "How much did you pay for that thing again?" asked Inho, one of Hana's longtime business associates. His voice dripped with amusement. 12 million credits, Hana said through clenched teeth, plus another 2 million for the breeding rights. The group erupted in laughter. Hana's face darkened to a deeper shade of purple. Bomb lay on the cold metal floor, his wings folded awkwardly against his body. His scales, which should have gleamed like starlight, were dull and flaking. One of his eyes was closed. The other stared at nothing. "He hadn't moved in 3 hours. The great Hana..." "Fooled by a simple solar flare," said Mireille, the only female in the group besides Hana. "I told you not to fly through the Kessler belt during flare season. The navigator said it was safe." Hana snapped. "The human navigator said it was safe," Inho corrected. "Everyone knows you can't trust human calculations." Hana said nothing. He was right, and she hated it. The accident happened 6 months ago. Bomb had been guiding her ship through a routine hyperspace jump when the solar flare hit. The radiation pulse fried half the ship's systems and damaged Bomb's navigation organ, a special part of his brain that starworms use to sense hyperspace lanes. Without that ability, Bomb was worthless. Hana had tried everything. She took Bomb to the best Veltari doctors on 3 different planets. She paid a fortune to a Cathalan specialist who claimed he could repair any biological system. She even consulted with a mysterious wanderer who promised ancient healing techniques. Every single one said the same thing. "The damage is permanent. Your starworm will never navigate again, so what will you do with it?" asked Junho, the quietest of the group. He ran a waste disposal company and was always looking for new contracts. "Don't even think about it," Hana warned. "I'm not paying you to dump him." "Then what? Keep feeding him?" "A starworm eats 50 kilos of protein paste every week. That's 2,000 credits a month minimum." Hana knew the numbers. She knew them too well. Between food, medicine, and the special cargo bay she had to rent because Bomb was too big for standard quarters, she was losing money every day. "I'll find a buyer," she said weakly. Mireille laughed so hard she had to lean against the wall. "A buyer? For a disabled starworm? Who would want that?" "A zoo, maybe," Inho suggested. "Or a research facility. I already tried." "They all said no." Hana's voice was bitter. Apparently even zoos have standards. The group fell silent. They all knew what that meant. Hana, one of the most successful merchants on Crossroads Haven, had made a catastrophic investment. In their culture, such mistakes were worse than crimes. They showed poor judgment, weak planning, and worst of all, bad luck. "You should have let him die in the accident," Junho said quietly. "It would have been kinder." Bomb's open eyes shifted slightly. Whether he understood their words or not, something in his expression changed. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but Hana saw it. For just a moment, she felt something like guilt. Then Inho's communication device beeped. "Oh, this is perfect timing," he said, reading the message. "I just got word that Taman successfully bonded with his new starworm. 3rd one this year. He's making a fortune on the military contracts." Hana's scales flushed darker. Taman was her biggest rival. Every success he had felt like a personal insult to her. "I need to get rid of this thing," she said suddenly. "Today, right now." "How?" Mireille asked. "You just said no one wants it." Hana looked around the cargo bay, her mind racing. She couldn't keep losing money on Bomb. She couldn't afford the embarrassment anymore, but she also couldn't legally abandon him. Station laws were strict about dumping live creatures. She needed someone to take him. Anyone. "Come with me," she told the group. "I have an idea." They took the elevator down to the lower decks of Crossroads Haven. This was where the cheap shops were, where species without much money tried to make a living. The corridors were narrower here, the lights dimmer, the air staler. Hana wrinkled her nose at the smell. "Why are we in the human section?" Inho asked. "Because humans are stupid enough to take anything," Hana replied. They walked past several small shops. A noodle restaurant run by a tired-looking human woman, a clothing repair service, a store that sold used data pads. Finally, they reached a workshop with a hand-painted sign. "Day Hose Repairs, no job too strange." Through the window, they could see a human man bent over a work table. He was welding something, his face protected by a dark mask. Sparks flew around him like tiny stars. "Perfect," Hana said. She pushed the door open. The human looked up, lifting his mask. He appeared to be in his 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a simple tie and grease stains on his clothes. His shop was cluttered but organized, tools hanging on the walls, parts sorted into bins, half-finished projects on every surface. "Can I help you?" he asked in perfect galactic common. His voice was calm and polite. Hana's group crowded into the small shop, filling it with their presence. The human, Dae-ho according to the sign, didn't seem intimidated. He simply waited. "You repair things, yes?" Hana asked. "That's what the sign says." "Anything? No matter how broken?" Dae-ho set down his welding torch. "Depends on what it is." Hana smiled, showing all her teeth. In Veltari culture, this was not a friendly expression. "I have a starworm. He's damaged. Permanently, according to every expert I've consulted. I want to give him to you." The human's expression didn't change. "Give?" "Yes, free, no charge." Hana's voice was thick with false generosity. "Consider it a gift, a chance to work with a rare creature." Behind her, Inho and Mirai were barely containing their laughter. Dae-ho was quiet for a moment. His eyes moved from Hana to her friends, then back again. He seemed to be calculating something. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why not?" Hana shot back. "You humans are always claiming you can fix anything. Here's your chance to prove it. Unless you're afraid." It was an obvious trap, and everyone in the room knew it. Hana was offering a creature that cost thousands to maintain and couldn't be healed. She was dumping her problem onto a human who didn't know better. Dae-ho studied her face for a long moment. Then he said, "Okay, I'll take him." Hana blinked. She hadn't expected him to agree so quickly. You will?" "Sure. Bring him by whenever you're ready. He's in Cargo Bay 7. I'll have him transferred here within the hour." Hana pulled out a data pad and thrust it toward him. "Sign this. It's a transfer of ownership." Dae-ho read through the document carefully. Hana tapped her foot impatiently. Finally, he signed it with his thumbprint. "Pleasure doing business with you," Hana said. She turned to leave, her friends following. As they walked out, Inho leaned close to her. "That was brilliant. You just dumped your biggest problem onto a human who will probably kill it through ignorance within a week. And if anyone asks, I can say I gave the poor creature to someone who wanted to help," Hana added. "I look generous instead of foolish." They all laughed as they headed back to the elevator. None of them saw Dae-ho standing in his doorway watching them go with an unreadable expression on his face. 2 hours later, a cargo drone deposited bomb outside Dae-ho's workshop. The starworm barely fit in the corridor. His body stretched nearly 6 meters from nose to tail, and even with his wings folded, he was almost too wide for the space. The drone operators didn't bother being gentle. They simply unloaded him like a piece of furniture and left. Bomb lay motionless on the cold floor. Dae-ho stood in his doorway looking down at the creature. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just observed. After a full minute, he crouched down near Bomb's head. "Hey there," he said softly. "I'm Dae-ho. This is your home now." Bomb's one open eye shifted slightly. The pupil was dull, unfocused. "Can you understand me?" No response. Dae-ho reached out slowly, letting his hand hover near Bomb's snout. He didn't touch, just let the starworm know where he was. "I'm going to help you, okay? But first, I need to get you inside. The corridor is no place to rest." He stood and walked back into his shop. The workspace was too small, but behind it was a larger room. Half storage area, half living quarters. Dae-ho had converted an old cargo container into his home when he first came to the station 5 years ago. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. He spent the next 30 minutes moving boxes, pushing his small bed against one wall and clearing as much floor space as possible. Then he grabbed several old blankets from his storage and spread them across the floor. "Okay," he said, returning to the corridor. "Let's get you comfortable." Moving a 6-meter starworm was not easy. Dae-ho couldn't lift him, couldn't drag him. Instead, he did something unusual, he asked. "Bomb," he said, using the name he'd heard Hana mention. "I know you're tired. I know you hurt. But I need you to help me just a little bit."
"Can you move?"
"Just a few meters. Silence, please. I have a soft place for you to sleep. It's warm. It's safe." Bomb's eye focused on Dae-ho's face. Really focused for the first time. Something passed between them, not words, not thoughts, but understanding. Slowly, painfully, Bomb lifted his head. His legs trembled as he tried to stand. He managed to get his front legs under him, but his back legs wouldn't cooperate. "That's good," Deho encouraged. "That's really good. Just a little more." Bomb dragged himself forward, his back legs scraping against the floor. It took 10 minutes to move 6 meters. By the time he reached the blankets, Bomb was breathing hard, his body shaking with effort. "You did it," Deho said warmly. "Good job, Bomb. Now rest." The starworm collapsed onto the blankets with a heavy thud. But for the first time in months, he was lying on something soft instead of cold metal. Deho covered him with 2 more blankets, then sat down against the wall to watch. The next morning, a young woman arrived at the shop. She was human, in her early 20s, with her hair cut short and practical. She wore a mechanic's jumpsuit covered in pockets. "Deho," she called out. "I heard you got a... Oh my God." Sunyi stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the giant creature sleeping in the back room. "That's Bomb," Deho said. He was at his workbench reading something on a data pad. "That's a starworm," Sunyi whispered. "How did you... Why do you... What?" "Someone gave him to me." "Gave you?" "Starworms cost millions." "Not this one. He's disabled." Deho gestured for her to come closer. "Look at him. Really look." Sunyi approached carefully. As an engineer, she had studied many species, but she'd never seen a starworm up close. They were rare, valuable, and usually owned by wealthy merchants or military organizations. But as she looked closer, her expression changed from awe to horror. "His scales are falling off," she said. "Malnutrition," Deho replied. "Those sores on his side. Pressure wounds, from lying on metal floors for too long. His wings, atrophied muscles. He hasn't flown in months." Sunyi touched one of Bomb's wings gently. The membrane was thin, almost transparent in places. "This is abuse. Yes, the owner just... Gave him to you?" She thought it was funny. Giving a broken creature to a human mechanic. She laughed about it. Sunyi's hands curled into fists. "What's your plan?" Deho looked at her with tired eyes. "Fix him." "Deho, I love your optimism, but..." "Every expert said he's permanently damaged." "Every alien expert." Deho stood up and handed her the data pad. "I've been reading about starworm biology all night. Their navigation organ is similar to Earth dolphins' echolocation system. When it gets damaged by radiation, it swells up. The aliens see the swelling on their scans and assume it's dead tissue. But," Sunyi prompted, "but what if it's just inflamed? What if the organ is still alive, just traumatized and swollen?" Sunyi scrolled through the data. "That would mean... It would mean he needs anti-inflammatory treatment, time to heal, and physical therapy. Not advanced alien surgery, just basic medical care. Did any of the previous doctors try this? No, because they treated him like a machine, not a living being. When a machine breaks, you replace the part. When a living thing gets hurt, you help it heal." Sunyi stared at the datapad, then at Bomb, then back at Deho. "This is crazy. Probably. It might not work. Might not. You'll spend a fortune on food and medicine." "Yep. And if you fail, people will mock you. They already do." Deho smiled slightly. "I'm human, remember? We're supposed to be the dumb ones." Sunyi laughed despite herself. "Okay, I'm in. What do you need?" The first priority was food. Deho learned that the previous owner had been feeding Bomb standard protein paste, the cheapest option available. It was technically nutritious, but it was designed for general use, not for a specific species. He contacted a human nutritionist named Dr. Yunji, who worked in the station's medical bay. "A starworm?" Dr. Yunji said over the video call. "I've never treated one, but let me check the database." 20 minutes later, she sent him a detailed meal plan. Starworms needed high amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, specific minerals, and certain amino acids that the cheap paste didn't contain. "It's going to cost you," Dr. Yunji warned. "I know. Why are you doing this?" Deho looked over at Bomb, who was still sleeping. "Because someone should." Dr. Yunji was quiet for a moment. "I'll get you a discount on the supplements. Military surplus, same quality, half the price." "Thank you." "And Deho, call me if you need medical advice. No charge." The second priority was physical therapy. Sunyi designed a support harness using materials from the shop. It wasn't pretty, just straps and padding connected to a simple pulley system, but it worked. They could use it to support Bomb's weight while his muscles rebuilt. "We'll start with just standing," Sunyi explained. 5 minutes a day, then we gradually increase the time. What about his wings? Same principle. We'll hang weights from them. Very light at first. Just enough to make the muscles work without causing damage. Daeho was impressed. Where did you learn this? My grandmother had a stroke. She had to relearn how to walk. Same basic idea. Damage system, slow recovery, patient effort. The third priority was the hardest. Emotional care. Bomb was depressed. That much was obvious. He barely responded to sounds, didn't react to touch, and spent most of his time sleeping. Daeho had read that starworms were highly intelligent and social. Being abandoned and treated as worthless had damaged more than just Bomb's body. We need to engage his mind, Daeho told Sun-Yi. How? I'm not sure yet. That evening, Daeho tried something unusual. He sat down next to Bomb with a portable speaker and played music. Not alien music, but old human classical pieces. Beethoven, Mozart, traditional Korean folk songs. Bomb's eye opened. You like that? Daeho asked. The eye tracked the speaker. Daeho smiled. Music therapy. We use it for patients with brain injuries back on Earth. The patterns help stimulate neural pathways. He played music for 2 hours that night. Bomb stayed awake the entire time listening. On the third day, something changed. Daeho was preparing Bomb's breakfast, a mixture of fish paste, mineral supplements, and special oils. The smell filled the small space. Bomb lifted his head and watched Daeho work. Good morning, Daeho said cheerfully. Hungry? He brought the food over in a large container. Bomb stared at it but didn't move. It's okay, Daeho encouraged. It's safe. It's good for you. Slowly, Bomb lowered his head and took a small bite. Then another. Then he ate steadily until the entire container was empty. That's the first time you've eaten without me having to coax you, Daeho observed. That's progress. Bomb looked at him. Really looked at him with both eyes now open. Then the starworm spoke. His voice was rough, unused, barely more than a whisper. But the word was clear. Friend? Daeho felt something tight in his chest loosen. He reached out and gently touched Bomb's snout. Yes, he said. Friend? Hana was having lunch at the Silver Nexus, the most expensive restaurant on Crossroads Haven. The tables were made of polished crystal, and the food was imported from 6 different star systems. This was where successful merchants came to see and be seen. She was celebrating closing a deal with a mining company when Taemin walked past her table. Hana, he said, his voice smooth as oil. I heard an interesting rumor about you. Hana's good mood evaporated instantly. Taemin was her biggest rival, and he never spoke to her unless he had something cruel to say. I'm busy, Taemin. Too busy to discuss your old starworm? He smiled, showing his teeth. Hana's hand froze halfway to her drink. What about it? Oh, just that a human is fixing him. Quite successfully, from what I hear. Taemin leaned against her table. The lower deck workers are talking about it. Apparently, the creature is eating again, moving around, even speaking. That's impossible. Every specialist said the damage was permanent. And yet, Taemin straightened. You know what functional starworms are worth these days? With the military expansion, the demand has tripled. I sold one last month for 18 million credits. Hana's stomach dropped. But I'm sure you got fair compensation from the human when you sold it to him. Taemin continued. You wouldn't just give away such a valuable asset, would you? He walked away laughing. Hana sat frozen at her table, her mind racing. 18 million credits. Taemin had sold a starworm for 18 million credits. She had given Bomb away for free. Back in her luxury suite, Hana paced back and forth. Her quarters took up an entire corner of the upper level, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the station's docking bays. Normally, the view calmed her. Today, she barely noticed it. Her financial advisor, Kyung-soo, sat at her desk reviewing numbers on a holographic display. He was a Trimelian, a species known for being cautious and detail-oriented. His 4 arms moved across multiple screens simultaneously. Tell me about starworm prices, Hana demanded. Kyung-soo's large eyes blinked slowly. Current market value for a healthy, trained starworm is between 15 and 20 million credits. Military contracts can go higher. And 6 months ago, approximately 12 to 14 million. So the price went up. Yes, the Kessler sector conflict increased demand for navigators. Standard pilots can't safely navigate the radiation fields, but starworms can. The military is buying every available one. Hana stopped pacing. Every available one? Yes, in fact, there are currently standing offers for any starworm regardless of condition. Even partially functional ones are worth millions for training purposes. Even. Partially functional? Kyung-soo's eyes focused on her. Hana, why are you asking about this? You got rid of your starworm weeks ago. I need to know something. Legally, do I still own him? All four of Kyung-soo's hands stopped moving. Did you complete a transfer of ownership? Yes, I signed a document. Then no, you don't own him anymore. Kyung-soo tilted his head. What happened? Hana explained about the human, about the rumors, about Taemin's mocking words. Kyung-soo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said very carefully, please tell me you received compensation. I gave him away. You gave away a starworm. He was broken. Worthless. Hana. Kyung-soo's voice was patient, like he was talking to a child. Even a deceased starworm has value. The scales can be sold. The bones used for research, the organs studied. A dead one is worth at least 50,000 credits for parts alone. Hana felt sick. And if this human has truly rehabilitated him? Kyung-soo pulled up more data. News travels fast on this station. Let me check something. His fingers flew across the screens. Then he froze. What? Hana demanded. What is it? There are already inquiries. 3 different parties have contacted the station administrator's office asking about purchasing a starworm from a human mechanic named Dae-ho. What? How is that possible? It's only been 3 days. The lower decks have eyes everywhere. Workers talk. Rumors spread. Kyung-soo showed her the screen. Look at these offers. 2 million credits. 4 million. This one from a military contractor is offering 6 million. And they haven't even seen the starworm yet. Hana grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. Can I get him back? She asked. Did you sign the transfer document in front of witnesses? Hana thought back to that moment in the shop. Yes, my friends were there. Then legally the starworm belongs to the human now. Kyung-soo closed the displays. I'm sorry, Hana, you made a poor decision. There has to be something. Some legal loophole. You could argue it was a joke, not a real transfer. But you'd have to prove that in arbitration. And the human has signed documents and witnesses too. Hana's mind raced through possibilities. What if I just take Bomb back? The human is on the lower levels. No one important will care. Kyung-soo's eyes widened in alarm. That would be theft. You could be banned from the station. The station authorities favor wealthy merchants. They'll side with me over a human. That used to be true, Kyung-soo said carefully. But the new administrator, Judge Myung, is different. She enforces the law equally, regardless of species or wealth. Several merchants have already learned that the hard way. Hana wasn't listening anymore. She was already planning. The next morning, Hana went to the lower decks. She didn't bring her usual entourage this time. She went alone, wearing simple clothes instead of her expensive robes. She wanted to see for herself what was happening. Dae-ho's shop was easy to find. There was a small crowd gathered outside. Hana pushed through them and looked in the window. What she saw made her breath catch. Bomb was standing. Actually standing on all 4 legs, supported by some kind of harness system. The human girl, Sun-yi based on her name tag, was adjusting straps while Dae-ho spoke quietly to Bomb. But it wasn't just that Bomb was standing. It was how he looked. His scales were glossy, catching the light with hints of blue and silver. His eyes were bright and alert. His wings, though still folded, looked stronger, fuller. He looked healthy. He looked like he had 6 months ago before the accident. Beautiful, isn't he? Said a voice beside her. Hana turned to see an elderly human woman. She ran the noodle shop 2 doors down. I've been watching them work, the woman continued. That young man, Dae-ho, he talks to the starworm like it's a person. Explains everything he's doing. Asks permission before touching him. I've never seen anything like it. It's just an animal, Hana said automatically. The woman looked at her with sharp eyes. You're the one who owned him before, aren't you? The one who threw him away? I didn't throw him away. I gave him to someone who wanted to help. After every expert said he couldn't be helped. After you decided he was worthless. The woman's voice wasn't angry, just matter of fact. The whole lower deck knows the story. You should leave before Dae-ho sees you. He's too polite to say anything, but you've caused that creature enough pain. Hana wanted to argue, but she couldn't find the words. Instead, she watched through the window as Dae-ho gently removed the harness and helped Bomb lie back down on a pile of soft blankets. Bomb's tail moved slowly back and Fourth, content, happy. She had never seen him do that when she owned him. Over the next 2 weeks, Hana became obsessed. She checked the market prices daily. Starworms were now selling for 22 million credits. She monitored inquiries about Daeho's shop. The number had grown to 15 different parties interested in Bomb. She hired an investigator to watch the shop and report back. The Starworm is making rapid progress, the investigator told her. He can stand for 30 minutes now. He started extending his wings. His communication is improving. He speaks several words and understands complex commands. How is that possible? Hana demanded. What is the human doing? According to my sources, it's simple rehabilitation, proper nutrition, physical therapy, and something the humans call emotional support. The mechanic sleeps in the same room as the Starworm, plays music for him, talks to him constantly. That's ridiculous. That wouldn't work. And yet it is working. The investigator showed her a video. Hana watched Bomb take 3 steps without the harness, his legs shaky but functional. Daeho walked beside him, one hand resting gently on Bomb's side, encouraging him with every step. When Bomb had to stop and rest, Daeho didn't show frustration. He just sat down next to him and said, "Good job. We'll try again tomorrow." Bomb nuzzled against him, making a sound that was almost like purring. Hana closed the video. She had owned Bomb for 2 years before the accident. He had never nuzzled her, never purred, never looked at her with anything but fear and obligation. There's more, the investigator said. A military contractor offered the human 8 million credits for the Starworm yesterday. What did he say? He said no. He told them Bomb wasn't for sale at any price. Hana stood up abruptly. That's it. I want him back. I don't care what you think. That Starworm is worth over 20 million credits now. And I gave him away because I was angry. It was a mistake. I'm correcting it. How? I'll offer the human money. Humans always want money, and if he refuses, Hana's expression hardened. Then I'll take legal action. That transfer document can be challenged. I'll claim cultural misunderstanding, improper compensation, unfair bargaining. I have expensive lawyers. He's just a mechanic. The investigator looked uncomfortable. Judge Myung doesn't favor wealthy merchants like the old administrator did. Then I'll make sure she never hears about it. I'll settle this quietly, one way or another. Hana dismissed the investigator and sat alone in her suite, looking out at the stars. She had made a mistake. A massive, expensive mistake born from pride and anger. But she was Hana. She didn't accept mistakes. She would get Bomb back, no matter what it took. Hana arrived at Daeho's shop 3 days later with 4 hired security personnel and her lawyer, a sharp-eyed Krell named Wonshik. She didn't knock. She simply walked in like she owned the place. Daeho was working at his bench repairing what looked like a ship's power regulator. He looked up calmly when the group entered. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I'm here for my Starworm," Hana announced. "Your Starworm?" Daeho set down his tools. "I think you mean my Starworm. You gave him to me, remember?" "That was a mistake. A misunderstanding." Hana gestured to Wonshik. "My lawyer will explain." Wonshik stepped forward holding a data pad. The transfer of ownership was conducted under inappropriate circumstances. My client was emotionally distressed and did not receive proper compensation. We're prepared to pay you 50,000 credits for your time and expenses. Daeho wiped his hands on a rag. "No, I'm sorry." Wonshik blinked. "I said no. Bomb stays with me." "Be reasonable," Hana said, her voice tight. 50,000 credits is more money than you probably make in a year." "Probably," Daeho agreed. "Still no." 100,000, Hana countered. "No, 200,000. You're not listening." "He's not for sale." Hana's scales flushed dark purple with anger. "That creature is worth millions. You're a fool to refuse." "Maybe, but he's my fool to be." Daeho's voice remained calm. "You gave him away, Hana. You stood in this shop with your friends and laughed about it. You called me a monkey. You said you wanted to see what the primitive human would do with broken goods." Hana's mouth snapped shut. She hadn't expected him to remember her exact words. "I remember everything about that day," Daeho continued, "including the legal transfer document you signed in front of 3 witnesses. Wonshik cleared his throat. "About that document. We believe it can be challenged on several grounds. Challenge it then." Daeho pulled out his own data pad and tapped the screen. Here's my copy, with timestamps, biometric signatures, and video recording from my shop's security system. I also have testimony from 17 witnesses who saw you neglect Bomb for months. Witnesses, Wanshik looked uncomfortable. Cargo workers, medical staff, other shop owners. They all saw how you treated him, how you let him lie on cold metal floors, how you fed him the cheapest food, how you ignored his suffering. I paid for the best specialists, Hana protested. You paid for specialists who treated him like a machine. Not one of them recommended basic care, patience, and kindness. Oh wait, Deho pulled up another file. Actually, 17 different specialists did recommend those things. You just ignored them because it wasn't a quick technological fix. Hana felt the ground shifting under her feet. How did you get those records? Dr. Yunji helped me request them. Medical information about transferred animals is public record on this station. Deho showed her the screen. Every single report said the same thing. Recommend extended rest, proper nutrition, physical therapy, and stress reduction. You didn't do any of those things. Where is Bomb now? Hana demanded, looking toward the back room. He's not here. Where is he? Somewhere you can't upset him. Hana gestured to her security team. Search the premises. You don't have authorization for that, Deho said quietly. The security team looked at Wanshik uncertainly. The lawyer checked his datapad. Actually, she's right. We would need a warrant, then get one, Hana snapped. That would require filing a formal complaint, which would trigger an arbitration hearing. Fine. File it, I want a hearing today. Wanshik sighed. Hana, maybe we should reconsider. I said file it. 4 hours later, they sat in arbitration chamber 3. The room was simple and functional. A large table in the center, seats for both parties, and a raised platform for the judge. The walls were bare metal and the lighting was harsh and even, designed to hide nothing. Judge Myung entered through a side door. She was Jatari, a species known for their strict sense of justice. Her 4 eyes could look in different directions simultaneously, making it impossible to hide reactions from her. This hearing is now in session, she said, her voice crisp. Hana of the Veltari Merchants versus Dai-Ho Human Mechanic. The dispute concerns ownership of a starworm designated as Bomb. She looked at both parties. Hana, you claim the transfer was invalid? Wanshik stood. Yes, Your Honor. We argue that the transfer was conducted under duress without proper compensation and with significant cultural misunderstanding between species. And you, Deho? Deho stood. He looked small compared to everyone else in the room, but his voice was steady. I have a signed transfer document, witness testimony, and security footage. The transfer was legal and voluntary. Let's see the evidence, Judge Myung said. For the next hour, both sides presented their cases. Wanshik argued that Hana had been emotionally distressed, that she hadn't understood the full value of what she was giving away, that the transfer was essentially a joke that went too far. Deho presented the security footage from his shop. In it, Hana clearly stated she was giving Bomb away as a gift. She laughed about it. She signed the document willingly. There was no sign of distress or confusion. Then Sunyi was called to testify. I'm an engineer, she explained to Judge Myung. When Bomb arrived at our shop, I documented his condition thoroughly. She displayed holographic images. These are pressure sores from lying on metal for extended periods. This is scale rot from poor nutrition. These are atrophied wing muscles from lack of exercise. Judge Myung's 4 eyes narrowed. This is the condition he was in when transferred? Yes, Your Honor. And his condition now? Sunyi smiled. He can stand unassisted for 45 minutes. He can walk short distances. His scales are healthy. He's gained 12 kilos. He can extend his wings fully. And he started practicing short flights in the cargo bay. Murmurs rippled through the small audience. Word of the hearing had spread, and several station residents had come to watch. How long did this recovery take? Judge Myung asked. 3 weeks, Your Honor. And what treatment did you use? Proper nutrition, physical therapy, anti-inflammatory medication for his navigation organ, and consistent emotional support. Judge Myung turned to Hana. Were these treatments recommended to you by previous specialists? Wanshik jumped in. Your Honor, my client sought the best available. I asked Hana, not you. Judge Myung's voice was sharp. Hana stood reluctantly. Some specialists mentioned similar approaches, But they also said the damage was permanent. Did they say the damage was permanent because you didn't try these treatments? Or despite these treatments? Silence. Answer the question, Judge Myung ordered. They said I should try the treatments first, to see if they helped before declaring him permanently disabled. And did you? No, why not? Hana's voice was barely a whisper. Because it would take too long. Because I wanted a quick fix, Judge Myung made a note. Continue, Sunyi. Sunyi presented more evidence. Medical reports. Nutrition plans. Physical therapy schedules. Everything was documented with dates, times, and progress notes. Then Daeho did something unexpected. He asked to bring Bomb into the hearing. That's highly irregular, Wonshik protested. The subject of the dispute should have a voice, Daeho said. Starworms are sentient beings under station law. Judge Myung considered this. I'll allow it. But if the creature becomes distressed, he'll be removed immediately. 10 minutes later, Bomb entered the chamber. The audience gasped. Bomb walked on his own 4 legs, slowly but steadily. His scales gleamed under the harsh lights, reflecting blues and silvers and purples. His wings were folded properly against his body, not hanging limp and useless. His eyes were bright and alert. He looked magnificent. Daeho walked beside him, one hand resting gently on Bomb's shoulder. When they reached the center of the room, Bomb stopped and sat down with careful dignity. Judge Myung studied him closely. Remarkable. This is the same creature from the earlier images. Yes, Your Honor, Daeho confirmed. Bomb, Judge Myung said directly to the starworm. Do you understand what's happening here? Bomb's voice was still rough, but clearer than before. Yes, Hana wants me back. Do you want to go back to Hana? The silence in the room was absolute. Bomb looked at Hana for a long moment. She couldn't read his expression, but she felt something cold settle in her stomach. No, Bomb said simply. Why not? Judge Myung asked. She threw me away. Said I was worthless. Left me on cold floors. Didn't care when I hurt. Bomb turned to look at Daeho. Daeho saved me. Gave me soft blankets. Made me good food. Talked to me like I mattered. He's my friend. I can give you better things now. Hana burst out. Better food, better medicine, anything you want. Bomb's eyes met hers. You had 2 years before the accident. You never gave me soft blankets then either. You never talked to me. You never cared. I was just a tool to you. The words hit Hana like physical blows. I made a mistake, she said desperately. I was angry about the accident. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to laugh about giving me away, Bomb replied. I heard you in the corridor. You and your friends. You said I was broken goods. You made jokes. Hana had no answer for that. Judge Myung looked at her documents, then at Bomb, then at both parties. I've heard enough, she said. The transfer of ownership was legal and binding. Hana signed the document voluntarily in front of witnesses, with clear intent to relinquish ownership. The fact that she now regrets this decision does not invalidate the transfer. Your Honor, Wonshik started. Furthermore, Judge Myung continued, her voice hard. The evidence shows clear neglect of the creature while in Hana's care. 17 specialists recommended basic treatments that were ignored. The recovery under Daeho's care proves the damage was not permanent. It was the result of inadequate treatment. She looked directly at Hana. You abandoned a living being because you couldn't be bothered to provide basic care. Now that someone else has done the work, you want to reap the benefits. This court finds your claim without merit. Judge Myung struck her gavel. Ownership of the starworm designated as Bomb remains with Daeho. Furthermore, Hana is fined 10,000 credits for wasting this court's time with a frivolous claim. This hearing is concluded. 6 months later, Crossroads Haven Station looked the same from the outside. But on the lower deck, something had changed. Daeho's small repair shop was gone. In its place stood a much larger facility with a proper sign. Second Chances Rehabilitation Center, no being left behind. Inside, the space had been completely transformed. The front area still had repair equipment, but the back had been expanded into a proper medical facility. There were treatment rooms, recovery areas with soft bedding, and even a small flight training zone. Soon-Yi stood in the main treatment room, adjusting a support harness on a small reptilian creature. It was a Kesitar scout beast, owned by a trader who'd been told it would never walk again after a shuttle accident. There you go, little one, Soon-Yi said gently. Just a few steps today. We'll build up slowly. The creature took one shaky step, then another. Its owner, a gruff Kessitar captain, watched with tears in his 4 eyes. I was going to have him euthanized, the captain said quietly. The specialists said there was no hope. The specialists were wrong, Sunyi replied. They usually are when they forget that living beings want to heal. They just need help and time. In another room, Dr. Yunji was examining a bird-like creature from the Turelian system. Its wing had been broken and healed incorrectly, leaving it unable to fly. We'll need to re-break it and set it properly, she explained to the owner. It will be painful and recovery will take months. But she'll fly again. How much will this cost? The owner asked nervously. We work on a sliding scale. You pay what you can afford. If you can't afford anything, we'll still help. The owner stared at her. Why? Dr. Yunji smiled. Because someone should. Outside the facility in the converted cargo bay, Baum spread his wings wide. He stood at the edge of the launch platform, looking out at the open space. The cargo bay had been modified into a training area, with safety nets and guidance systems. Daeho stood beside him, checking the monitoring equipment. You don't have to do this today if you're not ready. I'm ready, Baum said. His voice was strong now, confident. I've been ready for weeks. You're the one who keeps saying let's wait a little longer. Daeho laughed. Can you blame me? You just got healthy. I don't want you getting hurt. I won't. Baum lowered his head and gently bumped Daeho with his snout. You taught me how to be strong again. Now trust me to use that strength. Daeho took a deep breath. Okay, but small flight only. 1 circuit around the bay, then land. Deal? Deal. Baum stepped back, his wings spreading to their full span. They were magnificent, nearly 10 meters from tip to tip, the membranes shimmering with colors that shifted as he moved. He crouched, muscles coiling, then launched himself into the air. For a moment, Daeho's heart stopped. What if something went wrong? What if Baum fell? But Baum didn't fall. He soared. His wings caught the air perfectly, each movement smooth and controlled. He circled the cargo bay once, twice, then performed a graceful barrel roll just to show off. When he landed, it was with perfect precision. How was that? Baum asked, his eyes gleaming with joy. That was perfect, Daeho said, his voice rough with emotion. You're really back. Thanks to you. A crowd had gathered to watch. Other patients, their owners, station workers who'd heard about the flight test. They burst into applause. Sunyi ran up with a datapad. Daeho, you need to see this. What is it? We just got a contract offer. The Rescue Corps wants to hire Baum for deep space rescue operations. Daeho looked at Baum. What do you think? How much does it pay? Baum asked practically. Sunyi grinned. Enough to fund the rehabilitation center for 5 years. Then I think we should take it, Baum said. As long as Daeho comes with me. I don't fly without my navigator. The news of Baum's recovery spread far beyond Crossroads Haven. Scientists wanted to study Daeho's methods. Medical facilities across the galaxy requested copies of his treatment protocols. Other rehabilitation centers opened, based on his model. The approach became known as the human way, treating patients as individuals, combining medical science with emotional support, never giving up even when specialists said there was no hope. It changed how many species viewed medicine, and it changed how they viewed humans. Hana heard about all of it from her empty luxury suite. Her business had collapsed slowly, then all at once. Partners who'd heard about the arbitration hearing started questioning her judgment. If she couldn't recognize value when she had it, could she be trusted with important deals? Taman had been particularly ruthless. He'd bought out 3 of her major contracts at bargain prices, then made sure everyone knew how he'd acquired them. From the merchant who gave away a 20 million credit starworm, he'd announced publicly, I believe I can trust my own judgment better than that. The mockery hurt worse than the financial losses. Hana had moved to smaller quarters on the mid-levels. Not the lower decks, she couldn't bear that humiliation, but far from the luxury she'd once enjoyed. She spent her days trying to rebuild, trying to find new deals, trying to restore her reputation. And she spent her nights thinking about Baum. The rehabilitation center was having an open house celebration. 6 months of successful treatments, 53 patients recovered, and Baum's first official rescue mission completed. The entire lower deck was celebrating. There was food, music, and displays showing the center's work. Hana stood at the edge of the crowd watching from a distance. She wore simple clothes now. No expensive robes, no jewelry. She looked like any other mid-level merchant, struggling to make ends meet. Inside the center, Baum was being honored with an award from the Rescue Corps. A holographic display showed footage of him navigating through an asteroid field to reach a disabled ship. "He'd saved 43 lives. Beautiful, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Hannah turned to see the elderly human woman from the noodle shop. "I told you to leave once," the woman said. "But you came back anyway." "I just wanted to see," Hannah said quietly. "See what you lost? See what I threw away?" They stood in silence for a moment, watching through the windows as Dae-ho placed a medal around Baum's neck. The starworm was beaming with pride. "I could have had that," Hannah whispered, "if I'd just been patient. If I'd just cared." "Yes," the woman agreed. "But you didn't. And that's a lesson you'll carry forever." Hannah watched as Baum said something that made the whole crowd laugh. He looked so happy, so healthy, so valued. Everything she'd wanted for herself. Dae-ho had given to Baum, not wealth or status, but something more important, purpose and belonging. "I want to apologize," Hannah said suddenly. The woman looked at her skeptically. "Why? Because it's the right thing to do? Or because you want something?" Hannah was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe both." "Is that wrong?" "That's honest, at least." The woman gestured toward the center. "The open house is for everyone. You can go in if you want." Hannah took a deep breath and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the celebration was in full swing. Hannah moved through the crowd slowly, trying not to draw attention. She examined the displays showing different patients and their recoveries. Each one had a story, a creature that specialists had given up on, now healthy and thriving. "The key is patience," read one display quote from Dae-ho. "Bodies want to heal. Minds want to recover. Our job is just to provide support and get out of the way." Simple words, but they'd changed everything. Hannah reached the main hall where Baum was meeting with visitors. She hung back, not sure if she should approach. Then Baum saw her. Their eyes met across the room. Hannah saw recognition in his gaze, and something else, not anger, not hatred, but a kind of sad understanding. Baum said something to Dae-ho, then walked over to where Hannah stood. "Hello, Hannah," he said quietly. "Hello, Baum." Her voice shook. You look magnificent." "Thank you. I came to apologize for how I treated you, for giving up on you, for—" She trailed off. "For everything?" Baum was quiet for a moment. "Do you mean it? Or do you just regret losing something valuable?" It was the same question the woman had implied. Hannah had prepared an answer, something diplomatic and safe. Instead, she told the truth. "Both," she admitted. "I regret how I treated you because it was cruel. And I regret losing you because you're worth millions. I wish I could say it was only the first reason, but I'm not that good a person." Baum's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected honesty. "At least you're not lying anymore," he said. "I'm trying to be better. It's harder than I thought. Being better is always hard." Baum looked back at Dae-ho, who was watching from across the room. "But it's worth it. Can you forgive me?" Hannah asked. "I already have," Baum replied. "Anger is heavy and I don't want to carry it anymore. But forgiving you doesn't mean I want to be yours again. Dae-ho is my family now, I know. I wouldn't ask you to leave him." "Good." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, then Hannah said, "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad someone saw your value when I was too foolish to." "That means something," Baum said. "Not everything, but something." Dae-ho approached, his expression cautious. "Everything okay here?" "Yes," Baum said. Hannah came to apologize. Dae-ho looked at her carefully. "Did she?" "I did," Hannah confirmed. "And to say thank you for doing what I should have done." Dae-ho studied her face for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. "We all make mistakes," he said. "What matters is what we do after. I'm trying to do better." "Then I wish you luck with that." He extended his hand, a human gesture of peace. Hannah stared at it, then slowly reached out and shook it. "Maybe someday," Dae-ho said, "you'll help a creature that everyone else has given up on. Maybe you'll remember this and you'll be patient instead of rushing." "That would be the best apology," Hannah nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She left the celebration shortly after, but something felt different, lighter. She'd lost Baum, lost her wealth, lost her status, but maybe, just maybe, she'd learned something that would be worth more in the end. Outside, Hana looked up at the stars through the station's viewports. Somewhere out there, other creatures were suffering. Other beings had been declared worthless, unfixable, hopeless, and somewhere humans were proving that assessment wrong. Hana thought about Daeho's words, about being patient, about trying again, about seeing value where others saw only problems. It would take time to rebuild her life, to become someone better, but she had time, and now, for the first time in months, she had hope. Behind her, through the windows of the rehabilitation center, Bomb spread his wings one more time. The crowd cheered as he took flight, soaring in graceful circles, free, healthy, valued, everything a living being deserved to be. Hana watched until he landed, then turned and walked toward her new quarters. She had work to do,